Good Moed. Welcome to tonight's Shir, Chalamed, Thursday, Chalamed Sukkis, Tov Shin Pevov. So the first thing I want to share with you is a Ha'ora of the Rebbe, and this is in a Maimer, which we learned a few days ago, and it's a Maimer, so you can see it's Hanocha Bilt Himuge. But they write that the Rebbe began to be Magia, so there's two Ha'oras of the Rebbe on this Maimer. As you can see, it's about the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. Hasidim ve'anshe ma'ase hoye merakdim lifneihem v'avukas shel eir. And the Maimon talks about lifneihem and bifneihem, fascinating diukim. Meanwhile, on the thing that it says, she'inyan zeh koye al sukkos, that the celebration of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva is on Sukkot. Steht azay in the Ha'or of the Rebbe, Rambam Hilchas Lulav Perek Ches Halacha Yud Beis. That it's written in this as in Rambam, Shenemar, the union of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, Shenemar Usmachtem Lifnei Hashem Lekechem Shivas Yomim. Shom Halacha Yud Daled, Merak Din Chulu B'Yimei Chag HaSukkos. V'ayin Bepirush HaMishneh, of the Rambam, V'adayin Tzorach Iyun. The Rebbe is still with the Tzorach Iyun. So I was intrigued. What exactly is the Tzorach Iyun, etc. So I try to look at it more carefully. As I say, here the Rambam is saying that the union of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, the dancing, has got to do with the Pasuk Osmachtim Lifnei Hashem Elekechem. And then he says, V'tzorach Iyun, V'teras Kayanim, V'yishalmi, in Sukkah Pei Gimel Halacha Yud Aleph, and Bavli Mem Gimel Lamed Aleph. So what's written in those places was stertem, but the Rebbe is saying Tzorach Iyun. So the Pasuk in Emer was Machtim Lifnei Hashem Lekechem Hashem Vasyomim. Dr. V'lei Bigvulin Kol Shiva or Mishechorav Beis Hamikdosh Hisken Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai Sheheilulo Nitel B'Medino Shiva Zeichel Hamikdosh. So what is mashma from the way the Sifra learns, Usmachtim Lifnei Hashem Lekechem, is got to do with the lulav. Al kachtem lochem v'yemarishim priyat zodeh. Usmachtim Lifnei Hashem Lekechem with the lulav. That is in the Beis Hamikdosh is Shivas Yomim. Part of Beis Hamikdosh is Hakadosh Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai that we bench lulav every day of Sukkot besides Shabbos. But the Simcha Usmachtim Lifnei Hashem Lekechem is with the lulav and Arba Minim. Right, the Yerushalmi. Yeah. So here we have Yerushalmi. Usmachtim Lifnei Hashem Lekechem Shivas Yomim. Is Tanoi Toni Besimchas Lulav V'Kosev Medaber. Is Tanoi Toni Besimchas Shlom V'Kosev Medaber. It's got to do with Simchas Shlomim. Then the Rebbe also refers to the Babli Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Also, he says Usmachtim Lifnei Hashem Lekechem Shivas Yomim. It says there that the mitzvah of got to do with the union of Smachtim. It's got to do with the day, not by night. It's got to do with the lulav. So this is what the Rebbe is asking. Here you're saying that the Rambam is saying Smachtim Lifnei Hashem Lekechem Shivas Yomim. That is that is fulfilled by the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. How does that fit with these three Mekayres in Chazal that in Halacha? That the Shmachtim Lifnei Hashem Lekechem refers to with the lulav. Then he says Merak Din Hoyusho B'Mei Sukkos, and this I didn't really find. It refers to the Pirush HaMishnayos. Sorry, it means on the Mishnah in Sukkah. The Pirush HaMishnayos. I looked, and this is as much as I found. Beis HaShe'uvo B'Shem HaMokem Shehoyu Matkinim L'Simcha V'Lezamer. This is the place where they said there was celebration. V'Karuhu B'Shem Zeh. So I'm not sure what the Rebbe is referring to with the Yayim Bepirush HaMishnah. So again, we have here a posuk, or smachtem. The Rambam is saying that that is fulfilled by the Simchas Beis HaSheva. In three places we have that it refers to the lulav and the eminim, and then the Rebbe remains with the tzarech. Okay, that's as far as I got in pshat in this ha'ora of the Rebbe. Okay, let's go on to our next thing. So here, a very unusual story. Someone calls me up or asks me. He has a friend. This is a day or two after Rosh Hashanah. He has a friend. He was eating with him Sudas Yom Tov, and this friend from me. But they bought a house, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. But they've had continual problems in their house. They've had infestation of mice, which they can't get rid of, and other problems in the house. There's certain recurring problems which they can't get rid of. Besides this, they also had a daughter who went through a difficult marriage and divorced. So their mazel has been pretty dismal, especially related to the house. And they were sitting in Rosh Hashanah, they were talking, and he says, something which I have often heard, and it bothers me. I know that when you remodeling your house, whatever, you had several fruit trees in the garden, and you cut them down, you got rid of them, and that's I'm worried that might be the reason for your problems. And so the wife says, I also agree. I was very concerned. But my husband, machta savek, there's no such thing as no sakana or the trees. And I was very surprised that from a Yid should be so dismissive of such a thing. But meanwhile, he's asking, the main question was, now that the trees have been cut down, is there anything to remedy a tikkun so that the repercussions should cease, should go away? That was the question he put to me, which I didn't find very easily. But meanwhile, what you have on the screen is the Sugya Baba Kama, and Daf Tzadik Aleph from base, where it talks about Dikla, Hai Dik Omarav Dikla the Ton Kabo, a tree which bears a kav of fruit, also Mlimiktsetse. You're not allowed to chop it down. How much olives need there be on a tree to forbid you to cut it down? A quarter of a calf. So the shear seems to be different. And for the Shani says in the Chashivi that olives are more choshev, and therefore even a roiva of olives will also be reason to not be allowed to chop down the tree. Then Omer Reb Chanin, l'shochiv shivchas beri, elo the kotz te'ento belois zimna, my son Shivchas, he passed away prematurely, and I attribute it to the fact that he cut down a te'ento, a fig tree, belois mana, not in the right time. So the fact that there's an element of sakona is mefurish in the Gemara. Yeah. The question is, when there is a heter lahalacha, does the sakona remain or not? So you have it's not. This is not so clear in the Mechaber Shulchan Aruch. You have in the Alter Rebbe in Shmiras Guf Nefesh, I think, in Chesed Mishpat, and then you have in the latest one in the Malachtim. You have I use a lot the Sefer Shmiras Guf Nefesh, very good Malachit. Also, you have on the Alter Rebbe's Chesed Mishpat, you have a very good sefer called Imre Yaakov, but Yaakov Meir Stern, a liquid built around, Mr. Brewer style, built around the Alter Rebbe's Chesed Mishpat. For upon him, this is a lot of discussion in Poskim, whether if there is a heter lahalocha, whether that means therefore there's no sakona, or but there still remains an element of sakana. That's not a resolved question. Generally, the Rabbanim are quite careful about giving a heter or such a thing. And one of the heterim which is used is to sell the tree to a goy, and then the goy cuts down his own tree. But even then, that's only a heter betziduf to another heter. If it's a perfectly healthy tree and producing good fruit, just because you want to have the space, that alone would not be, you wouldn't be rely upon him. It's, and there's also a letter, I think, to the Pshnei Garelik, the Rav Chabad, the first Rav Chabad, where he had given a heter in the past, and there had been uh, not good events following, and the Rebbe kind of endorses that he should kind of shy away from giving a psak on this, and perhaps to get a three rabbanim. It's something which we're quite careful about, giving a heter to chop down a fruit tree. Akoponu, that's not the question here. The question is there a tikkun to undo, to repair the damage? So I searched around in Eitzah Chochmah, and this is what I came up. There was in case there was an incident that someone chopped down a fruit tree b'shegeg, and then he became dangerously ill, and they told the Saren Rebbe gave the instruction that he should distribute fruit in Chadorim for Kinderlach, and they will say a broch on the Peiris. And this seems to be that by making more Bayer Pri Ha'etz, that be a tikkun for the fact that he had taken down the Pri Ha'etz. So I gave over this answer. They shall so help and also sign else to pay Hanir van Nigla. Someone is writing here that years ago he had such a meiser with a fruit tree, and he was told to get a heter from 3 rabbonim, number one, and number two, sell it to a goy, and he should cut it down, and that was with the dead fruit tree. So you see how very anxious about it. Okay, let's go on to our next question, and the next question I don't have a satisfactory answer. The question is number 3. Why is Oleinu included in the Chazoras Hashatz for Musaf of Yom Kippur? So on Rosh Hashanah, Oleinu is the first part of Malchias. We have 10 psukim about Hashem being Melech, and so we have the first pasuk of Malchias is the end of Oleinu. So that's how it comes there, and we say it also in the Quiet Shemon Esrei and in the Chazoras Hashatz. It comes, but Yom Kippur is not said in the Quiet Shemon Esrei, but the Chazoras Hashatz somehow it comes in there, and that is the introduction to. Then following after that comes the Avodah, the Atakinanto, or in Ashkenaz Amitz Koyach. So how did Oleinu? Why is it brought in there? So I looked around. I did not find I didn't find the question, but never mind the answer. Didn't find. I'm just wondering whether there is an Inyan. I didn't have a chance to look it up properly. There is an Inyan of having 4 times Koyrim in Musaf on Yom Kippur, and in the Asidah, in the Amachs, it says B'chan ein tzorach l'chroya. One place it says that you don't, by the Hakoyanim, it said quietly, you don't do Koyrim, possibly in order to make up the 4 times of Koyrim. That's why we have the Oleinu. But as I say, I don't have a solid answer to that. Similarly, someone asked me, why does it, when it comes to Vidui, so Al-Chet, is said in all 10 times over Yom Kippur, including Mincha before Yom Kippur, because you have Mincha and before Shkia. It comes to Ne'ilah, we don't say the Al-Chet, we say Hashem, say the Aleph base. But then we have Atanos and Yod Laposhim, etc. But we don't have the Al-Chet and Aseda Aleph base. And the question is, why is it not said there? So my answer was, on the open of it's such a Gehabana, such an exalted moment, that is higher than the going to Aleph base. So not a satisfactory teretz. If so, why do you say Hashem Aseda Aleph base? But meanwhile, someone showed me this very interesting sikha, and this is from Tovshin Tes Zayin. And this is on the morning, it was after the second Seder. In the years when the Rebbe had the Seder upstairs in the Frierdiker Rebbe's apartment, so he would come down after the Seder, and there would be like a Farbrengen in the shul downstairs, but it was without Farbreisen, without L'chaim, and the Rebbe would say sichas about the Haggadah. And so in Tovshin Tezayin, he has this very interesting observation that we have twice a year in our Seder of Tefillah, we have Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim. We have once at the end of the Seder, or both Sedarim, fine, and we have the end of Yom Kippur. We say Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim. And the Rebbe goes so it's the night of Pesach. The Rebbe starts talking about Yom Kippur. He talks about Yom Kippur is Tshuva, and we have Vidui at the onset of Yom Kippur. And then, if it wasn't enough, then you have Vidui again at Ma'iri, Vashachis, and Musaf, and Mincha. And if not, if that may not have been adequate, so therefore we have again the Indian of Tshuva also by Ne'ilah. And he explains how it's corresponding to the 5 levels of the neshama, and the ila is connecting to the yechida, and therefore that the yechida is the untouchable. That's today's Hashinus yechida liyachdoch. It's Hayom Yom today. So Kivin shebechinas yechida is always b'shleimus, and it never taken captive, not like in Aran Chai, Achet feels neila, which is in Yonis Eidus Hayechida Shehi B'Shleimus Cholech Yisrael, even are so aroused in Tshuva, etc. At Neila. Therefore, we have this announcement of Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim. Kolponi doesn't directly answer my question, the question which was put to me, but it does talk about the Geschmacke Biur of the Gehebenkeit, the exalted moment of Ne'ilah, and possibly that's because of that. My theory, possibly it's higher than going into the whole list of Asius of Al-Chet. Let's move on. So a simple question. This was more. Sometimes people forget, and they ate something. Forgot to say a tonis, a fast day, and they ate something. But there is pachas mikashir, or sometimes people have to take a medication, and therefore they need to take a little bit of food with it, a little bit of a drink. Does that disqualify them from saying anenu? So there's a famous one, we discussed it a few times at Shuva of the Tzemach Tzedek, about Vayichal and anenu, and he says, if there's 3 who are fasting, and Al Kaponim Shiva was 8 pachas mikashir. So there is, you get the impression a little bit that the ones who ate pachas mikashir is not a total participant in the fast. But this is from the Piskei Teshuvos, where they are taking the position that someone who ate shiurim, in other words, less than a shir, for whatever reason, on a fast day, then they are still eligible to say anenu, still eligible to have an Aliyah Torah and a Siyas Kapayim. Yeah. And for that matter, if someone ate after dawn, ate before dawn, but they didn't make a stipulation the day before, the night before, that they're going to get up early, so they haven't lost their tanis, they can still say anenu b'yom tzeiv tanisei. As I'm reading this, it's something which I never really thought about Nesias Kapayim. In Chutz La'aretz is irrelevant, or at least by Ashkenazim. But in Eretz Yisrael, so by Sfardim, there's a B'duchanon by Mincha. Aha. Why don't we normally have Nesias Kapayim by Mincha? Because Chashach Shikrus. The person might have had a glass of wine with his lunch. And therefore, we don't have Birchas Kohenim at Mincha. So now, so here, if a Kohen had pachas mikashir, so if he ate lunch, so then he's disqualified to do nesias kapayim at mincha. If he had just a tiny little bit, he's saying he's still eligible. Fine. Let's move on. It's number 6. So here's a question. Someone on Yom Kippur was feeling very poorly, and Motzei Yom Kippur was also throwing up, whatever. They didn't manage and didn't make Havdalah on Motzei Yom Kippur. Now it's the day after Yom Kippur was on a Thursday, yeah? Was it? No. Whatever it was. The following day, I get a call to do Havdalah. Can I do Havdalah today? Number one. And number two, to make the bracha Beire Meir Ha'esh. So we all know that it says in Shulchan Aruch, this you have on the screen from Siman Reish Tzadik Tes, that if a person did not manage to make Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos for whatever reason, so they have up till Tuesday, up till Shkia. On Tuesday, they can still make Havdalah. Question is, what about Yom Tov? The whole idea is, up till Tuesday is called Bosar Shabbato, and from Wednesday is called Kama Shabbato. So they are, that's the spread of Shabbos, is 3 days on either side. But Yom Tov doesn't have that idea. So therefore, what's the story about Yom Tov? So now the Mishnah Berurah here is bringing from Kiva Eger in the name of a Sefer L'Shen Chachamim that Motzei Yom Tov there's no Tashlumin. Shabbos you have 3 days, but Yom Tov this doesn't apply. However, Kiva Eger himself says that the first day after Yom Tov you can still do Havdalah. So on that basis, I said that the day after Yom Kippur you can still make Havdalah. Now, as you know, for Havdalah, Motzei Yom Kippur, you have to have what's called a Ner Shavas. You have to have a flame which has been burning from before Yom Kippur. So this is already the following day. I said, "You have still a Ner Shavas?" He says, "I do have." Okay. So I said, all right. So now here's the very interesting. Now, look over here. We have this is from the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch about the Motzei Shabbos. He says, on if you don't have fire on Motzei Shabbos, you don't have to. It's not mechuyev to go, drive yourself crazy to find a fire. On Motzei Yom Kippur, afilu k'shechol b'cheil, yesh oimrim shetzorich l'chaze achar birchas sa'eh. One should go out of his way, to obtain a Gnei Shavas. And why is that? Because it's Kabirchas Havdalah. It's like the Havdalah itself. Shemevorach l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shehivdu lonu yom zeh, lehayoim ishar yom tov, shenasa boi lahavir oid ad otav. There is an emphasis here that Yom Kippur is not like Shabbos. So let's go through the back, a little bit to explain this. It's not so mafurish here. What is the reason why we have to have for Yom Kippur Ner Shabbos? So this is the way I understand from Meforshim is because people were confused. People they know Shabbos. Shabbos is absolutely no mustn't do fire. Yom Tov is midweek, and you are allowed to. Yom Kippur is midweek. So after Yom Kippur, got the same guidelines as Yom Tov. So Chachamim instituted to have a fire, and for 24 hours you're not going to touch it because it's out of bounds. And after the 24 hours, the end of Yom Kippur, you're going to make a bracha. So that's why you have to have an Ersha Shavas, to emphasize that Yom Kippur is different for Yom Tov. Yom Kippur has got this din of Shabbos. That message is true even the day after Yom Kippur. It says Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos. Why don't you? That's the time when Modern Mauritian rub 2 stones. So we have a takona to make a bracha on fire on Motzei Shabbos. Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. What are you making a bracha on fire for? What's it got to do with it? This time is nothing to do with it. Therefore, you cannot make a bracha. If you make Havdalah on Sunday morning, you don't make a bracha on the fire. It's a bracha levatala. But Motzei Yom Kippur, the day after Yom Kippur, I don't have a riot to dismiss as we kiddush. And looked around. Who asks a shaila? I didn't make Havdalah Motzei Yom Kippur. I kept on fasting another 12 hours. It's a very unusual shaila. But I couldn't find anywhere. But in Svara, there's no strong reason to. I don't see a reason to say no. If someone has raya faket or for support, whatever, I'm interested. Okay, let's move on. Unfortunately, we have a couple of our uh, Galite who became Avelim recently, lost a father, and so come up the Shaila about the Rabbonim, Shluchim. So what's the rule about davening for Nomad? So this is in Yeridea Simen Reish Simen Shin Einvav. At the end of the Simons are very long shtickle Ramo. Lots of minhagim about Avelis, Chaman al-Islam. So he says, Avaloi nohagul hispal b'Shabbos v'Yom. It's not customary for an oval nishnas Avelis be chazna Shabbos v'Yom, even though there's in Isibadav. But as Mesachel, on the weekday, on the contrary, if he knows he's capable of davening, he should. And that's more effective than Kaddish Yosim, which is Kaddish Yosim instituted for Ketana. So there is this Indian of in the Ishnasa Avelis, not the Chazan. So here's a question: he's a shliach, etc. He runs the show, he runs the shul there. Does he have to step back for the year? So loy no agu. But then here the shach on the spot. Ches v'chein b'yom roim osa. V'chein posuk maril. Miu hecha doleka odef minei. If there's no one more capable than him, then mutter. And he gives a reference to Mari Weil. So if he's the most capable in his shul, to start delegating is going to be compromising on the quality of running the tefillas. So then it would be okay for them to daven for the Amid. In the year my father passed away, so it came Rosh Hashanah. I davened for the Amid, the second day, I think. I have a chazaka, and when there's a chazaka, to always daven for the homage, so then it was also a reason to keep up with that. Okay, so it's then in the Malach can talk about this. It's not a big deal. If there's a need for if the tzibur want you to daven for the homage, then it's okay to daven for the homage. Right. Let's move on. So now we have here a question. We have a piyut, which we say in the Ila, and it starts off with Hashem Hashem Kerachem V'Chanun, and then it goes Es Kerelikim Ve'ehemoyo, and then the chorus is Hashem Hashem Kerachem V'Chanun. So here's a very strange development. What you have on the screen, the top of the screen now, is from the Sefer Halachos Minhagei Chabad. This is put together from the columns of Halachos Minhagim in the booklets Hiskashrus, put together by Rabbi Yosef Simcha Ginsburg. And he writes the following: in this poem of Esker Lekim Vehemoyo, Kimedume, that Mit Gimel Midis Harachimim is said only once, and not like a pismon where there's the chorus which is said after each stanza, Ben Bayis Labayis. This he quotes from Rabbi Shua Monshein, Alo Shalom. On the other hand, Rav Nochem Kaplan Zol Sein Gesund, who is serving as the Chazan in Beit 770, he says, you do say it. You do say the Yud Gimel Midas. And indeed, in Topshin Samach Daled approximately, when we were working on the annotated edition of the Machzer, so then, instead of having just Yud Yud to say Hashem Hashem, there it's been put out in full, in bold-face type, that Hashem Hashem is said each time between each of those stanzas. So we have here now conflicting opinions whether to say it each time or not. Now, I was asked to kind of weigh in a little bit, and so what I did see in the Art Scroll Machzer, they have this piyut, and they write in some communities Hashem Hashem is said. They seem to be more inclined not to say it each time. Fine. And some other machzorim has been dropped completely. Now, one thing at a time, let's take a look at this piyut. It's the four stanzas. Eskero is Aleph, Midas Harachmim is Mem, Tomachti is Tov, and Yehirotzen is a Yud. So it's a Rosh Tevis of Amiti or Amitai. Now, in this, there's a Sefer Chassidim from someone at the time of the Baalei HaTosfos, and he quotes, he talks about the Yud Gimel Midas. Now, as you may know, we talk about Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim, and we know Hashem Ken Racham V'Chanun. Exactly the distribution of which words are which midah. So there's Tosfos holds Hashem is one. The first Hashem is Koden Shechata, the one that Achar Shechata. They count as two midas. Kael is the third midah, and so on. And then there's, as I said, there's several opinions, and the Sefer Chassidim also he holds that Kael is the first one. Oh, no, sorry, Erech is the first one, and he actually counts he counts Solachto Lavinenu Chatasenu Chaltonu as three in the number of the Yud Gimel Midas. Where, if you want to know what's the Kabbalah Sarizal, where will you find this? Very simply, perhaps I mentioned not too long ago, in the Machzor and the Siddur by Tashlich, where we say the Micha Mecha, Michael Kamecha from Sefer Micha. So there, in small writing on top of the words, it has the Yud Gimel Tzarachmim, and there you can see the way Al Pi Arizal is a distribution of the Yud Gimel Tzarachmim. Al Kapon in the Sefer Chassidim wants to prove from he lists the Yud Gimel Tzarachmim as he does, but Sharei Amitai also came. V'omer Esker Lekim Ve'em Moyo V'oinin Yud Gimel Midas. Yeah, you notice that, yeah? V'oinin Yud Gimel Midas. That's interesting. I didn't notice this before. So he's saying that the fact that in the first stanza, before Esker Lekim Ve'em Moyo, the Mechaber says to say Til Vanake, and also to say V'salachta Lavinenu L'chatenu Senu L'chatonu, is a proof that he holds that the Rebbe Amitai, who was the composer of this piyut, holds that V'salachta Lavinenu L'chatenu L'chatonu are also part of the Yud Gimel Tzarachmim. Meanwhile, he says that after Esker Lekim Ve'em Moyo, then he says V'oinin Yud Gimel Midas. And then V'achroina you say Tomachti Yisedoisai, and you take the support on the Shlesh Esrei K'beshemoninu L'cha Chibrom Yachad Liomrum. All right. Meanwhile, as we're talking, I'm reading this piece of Sefer Chassidim. He has a very strong point over here, that this piyut should only be said El Imkim Bocha HaMispalo, only if the one who's leading the davening weeps, or some people of the people are weeping. They shouldn't be Davish Kodim. How can you say Yerotzim Lefonecho Shemei Akel Birches, that you can hear the voice of the weeping? Shetosim Dimeiseinu Benoid Chaliyes. You're saying that you should take our tears and put them in your container, in your barrel, to hold on to them, and as a result, you'll save us from Xeris. So he's seeing here very strong words. Okay, but meanwhile we're getting somewhere. Now, this piyut comes up several times. As you may know, that the piyutim which are said at Ne'ilah, many of them are repeats of piyutim which had been said in Slichas, either leading up to Rosh Hashanah, or in the Slichas which are said after Rosh Hashanah, which in Chabad we don't do, but it doesn't matter, they exist, yeah? So Hashem, this piyut of Esker Lekim Ve'emoyo, Hashem and Eskero, this is in the Slichas for Yud Gimel, which is called for the 8th day of, for Ches Tishri, and that day is called the talk from Yud Gimel Midas. It's called Yud Gimel Midas because of this piyut. It's also said in what you have on the screen here, on the right of the screen, is from the Slichas said on Sheni Tinyona. There's a Seder of Bahab, which is a Monday and a Thursday and a Monday, after Pesach and after Sukkot. So there are communities where this is done, and there's a Slichas in the back of our Seder. You have the beginning of the Slichas starts off with this Sheni Kamo, and then for Chamishi, and the Slichas for Sheni Tinyona for the second Monday of Bahab. And this is, as you can see on the screen, this is from the Torah Eir, and you can see how after each stanza he has Yud Kei Vav Kei to go back to say Hashem Hashem. On the left of the screen, that is from Ar Machzer. The Ar Machzer, may perhaps discussed it not long ago. Ar Chabad Machzer is a copy of a Machzer which was published by Rav Bichovsky in Berditchev, I think, in Tofresh Ayin Gimel. And here, that's you can see it says after each of the stanzas, Hashem Hashem. My father, Allah Shalom, I once asked him about a thing in the Siddur. I asked him, do we say it? He says, if he would not want to say it, why was it printed in the Siddur? Yeah. So we're seeing here that there is strong grounds that it should be said, and yeah, that's the Samu Noite, as Nochem Kaplan is saying, that it should be said. Although there are others who don't say it, all right. Yeah, there is such a minhag. Now, I want to show you one more thing. Now, generally, when we say Hashem, Hashem, we have a whole Hagdama. Say, Kel Melech Yosef, or Kel Erech Apayim. And then, Vayav Hashem Alpana Vayikro Hashem Hashem. And here, Hashem, Hashem is being said without, should we say, without the fanfare around it. Now, this piece on the screen now is actually from the Slichas said at Mincha on Yom Kippur. And it's not said with any fanfare. It's said quietly like everything else. Hashem Hashem is said there without ungarnished. Without anything around it, without any noise. I wanted to point out something. What did I say? That this Slicha of Eskara is said on Sheni Tinyona. It's said on the last day, really, of Slichas, because Erev Yom Kippur is short Slichas. So the last day of real heavy Slichas is Ches Tishri, and then we have it at Ne'ilah. In a sense, each of these is the end of a series of tefillah. It's an intense moment. And I saw in other places describing the intensity of this tefillah. A very powerful tefillah, as I said before. That's why the day is called Yom Yud Gimel Midas. It's a very intense tefillah. In many shuls, when Hashem Hashem is said, it's like Geshrei, everyone is shouting Hashem Hashem Kil Rachum V'Chanun. So I can relate to it that this is at this moment of reaching towards the culmination of a series of or a hemshech of tefillahs, that Hashem Hashem is said again and again with full intensity. Now, one last point about this. On the screen I have here from the Hagos Maimonides in Seder Tefillah Shel Rambam. Vayaver kosev v'tshuvas hagoinim minig yeshiva, to say Shachris, to say Vayaver 7 times, and Musaf and Mincha each 6 times, and Ne'ilah 3 times. So that means that's 6, 12, and 7 is 19, and 22 in all. Mihu anan loy nagin and hachi. And I was looking at the Machzer. I noticed interesting. You have at Maidiv, we have several times Yom Mitzarachmim, And then we have it at Neila. But curiously, at Shachris, Mincha, Musaf, and Mincha, there's no Vayaver, etc. Kibalti ani shebetfilas yoitze, to say Shloish Esrei Vayaver, to say Vayaver 13 times, corresponding to the Yud Gimel Midas. That's from the Ravya. Okay, so why am I showing you this? The idea of saying Yud Gimel Midas Rachim again and again is something which has got a strong shirish. The numbers don't match. Yeah, according to what I counted. But the idea of saying it again and again has got a strong side. I also counted into my cheshbon the 3 times of Hashem Hashem by Kriyas HaTorah, when you take out the Sefer Torah, but still, I'm not sure what the numbers are. They're different minhagim, but the idea of saying it again and again has got, you can see, it's got a strong shaylish. Just before I go further, and that is that in Siddur Arizal talks about Vayaver and Ayin Beis, 72 times 3 is 216. Yeah, that's Reish Vov of Vayaver. And then the Ayin Beis is the 4th time. If you remember, we discussed about V'chein, the 4 times B'chein. We have V'chein Yiskadish, 4 times we have B'chein. B'chein is Ayin Beis. You got 3 times, that's the Reish Vov of Vayaver. And then the extra time, that's the Ayin Beis, that's the B'chein Ovi Al HaMelech Sheloi Kados, which is even higher than the other 3. That's Merumas in the word Vayaver. Although in this appeal, the Vayaver is not said. Okay, let's go on to another couple of things, and we'll finish with those. And that is, a shliach asked me, that the local council have been trimming the hedges, etc., in the cemetery, and it's available for him to use for schach. So he's asking, is it okay to use cuttings from trees growing in a cemetery for schach? So the shayla here is that the view is that a mace is also bahanoah, and something which is dedicated to a mace is also bahanoah. So here you have, this is you can see it's Shin Samaches in Yeredeya, Besakvoris, you treat with respect. And then he says one shouldn't be pasturing animals there, and it shouldn't be used as a shortcut, and one shouldn't be gathering grasses there. If there's a need to cut the grass for maintenance, then soifrim bimkoiman. Okay. But then the next sif says the trees which are growing in a Beis HaKvoros, one is allowed to gather the fruit because they're not over the graves mamash. So here already I see that in the Beis HaKvoros itself, if it's something growing mamash by the kvorim, then one wouldn't be able to use it. If it's at a distance, just the general on the grounds, then one's allowed to have hanoah. Now, a couple of points here is I'm not sure whether this idea of Isur Hanoah applies to Mesim who are Einam Yehudim. A second question is using schach considered a Hanoah? Because there's a concept in Halacha of mitzvahs lav lehonis nitnu. And mitzvahs are not given to us as an indulgence. Mitzvahs are a discipline and obedience, but they're not considered a hanoah. So that doesn't apply to matzah, because matzah is food. But for other inyonim, we'll say, let's say, Amudar hanoah mechavere, can use his shofar, let's say, because mitzvahs lav lehonis nitnu. Yeah, let's vaguely remember such a thing in Shulchan Aruch. So, is schach considered a hanoah? You're doing it for a mitzvah, not for a hanoah. So that would also. So I told him it's okay, as I said. Number one, I don't know whether the bichlal is growing over the kvorim. Number two, I don't know whether it applies to Mesei goyim. And number three, we can rely on the inyan of mitzvahs lav lehonas nitnu, and therefore it's okay to use for schach. Okay. Finally, we have here the last. For the minyan, we have a sukkah, and those who have a screen in front of them can see. And for those who don't have a screen in front of them, I'm going to describe what we have here. It's a square, which is about 5 feet square, 6 feet square, 4 poles, like a chuppah, schach on top. On 3 sides, there are bands, or ribbons, straps. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straps, 4 straps. On 3 sides, there are straps, and the straps are less than 3 tefachim apart, so there's lovud. So we have here a sukkah made of lovud on 3 sides. On the fourth side is totally open. No, if you learn Gemara sukkah, you'll say, yeah, sure, it's kosher. So I was asked this question. So I said, it's according to Magen Avraham and it is a poshet. So in Gemara Erevin, it comes out like this: that a mechitza, which is only shesi or only erev, is only horizontals or only verticals, but is everything else is open wide. So then that's acceptable only the shiora. If you're traveling and you want to create a mechitza for Shabbos, then you can do a mechitza of just a shesi or just erev. But when it's a more mokim yishuv, that's called a mechitza gerua. It's considered a poor quality, and it's not adequate to make a mechitza for Hilchos Shabbos. That's where the discussion Gemara Erevin. Question then is, what about Hilchos Sukkah? So we're going to use the term mechitza gerua, a poor quality, poor standard, a low standard mechitza. Is that good enough? So this is in Tafresh Lamed. Unfortunately, we do not have Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch on that siman. The Yain b'Magen Avraham, which the Brewer brings, the Davke Moisa Sukkah me'abod defonis, that a sukkah made with straps, which lovud, is good if it is on 4 sides. Avol im oise mishalosh defonis, if it's just 3 sides, so then loy mahani, that's not good enough. Midrabanon al yedei lovud. So, and Magen Avraham is of the opinion that the mechitzas of lovud, which is just on 3 sides, so you got here is taka lovud, but because it's gerua, it's only on 3 sides, not on 4 sides, that's not good enough. So here we have here a svara of Magen Avraham that this is not good enough, similar to Hilchos Shabbos, or possibly sukkah is less chomer than Shabbos. And as I said, there's no Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch in this on Siman Tafresh Lamed. We don't have it, but there was a chassid apparently who tried to make a style on Siman Tafresh Lamed on the Alter Rebbe's style, and parts of this were published as a hisofe to the Piskei Dinim, say for Piskei Dinim or Tzemach Tzedek. So at the back there's a couple of pages, and then the Rebbe, when Monshe Shalom wrote his Sefer Teos Chabad, the Rebbe says, make sure to mention about those few pages of Hilchos Sukkah. And I was intrigued at those pages, and I looked at them, learned them a few times. I was not happy with the way they had been published, deciphered in the back of the Tzemach Tzedek, and in the Sefer Nesiv Mistei Shlichus, they are copied out. That siman is copied out with many additional comments. I'm reading from there. V'yesh chelkim al zeh. Although the Magen Avraham is machmir, there are those who disagree, and they say the Chachamim are not machmir in Sukkah over Shabbos, bein b'mechitzas shel shesi v'shel erev, that the limitations of just a wall, just horizontal, just vertical, that does not apply for Sukkah. V'yesh machmir v'shel erev. So he quotes an opinion which is disagreeing with this chumrah of the Magen Avraham, and that it is kosher. What's the bottom line? At the end of that sif, the sif hey, in those halachas, the inyan halacha nire, chatchila yesh lahayis kesvar Hashem, chatchila dolak Magen Avraham, that you shouldn't rely on such a thing. But the eved yesh lismech al svarim tzois B'diavad, you can rely that it is okay, that such a mechitza is valid. So b'diavad, such a sukkah is valid. How do you define diavad? That's another interesting question. But can you make a bracha on such a thing? L'chayra, you can. If that's the sukkah which you have, that would be okay, even though the Magen Avraham is not happy about it. I'm just going to read here a couple of notes. Rabbi Lu writes the following. Is it okay for me to read it out? We were at a hotel in Yom Kippur. The staff extinguished all the flames after we had left.
Definitely okay.
There was no Ner Shabbos. When I came home, I said Meir Eish on Avelis Lich they have for the year. Did I do correctly? So I hope you added a match or something to the outside candle. And that way it's okay. There's a suffix whether a Neir, which is just Neir Zikorin alone, is enough for to say Beir Meir Eish. So they say there is. You have a Neir, people have a Neir Neshama at home. You put a match to it, and then for sure you got Neir Shabbos, and it's Neir. It's also Le'oira. Number two, writes Rabbi Lu, the Rebbe sent me a message to Rabbi Charakov, Tovshin Chovhei, before he went out to Greenland. He was in the year of Avelis. He shouldn't hesitate to be a chazan, even though he was in the year of Avelis. And I'm sure there was no one more qualified than Rabbi Lu in Greenland to be chazan that Yom Kippur. Number three, I don't know, but maybe an answer about Vidiyad and Ila can be understood from the Maimer of Shavtim Mayim Besosin of Tavshin Chav Zayin, a very Gishmak Maimer, that the joy of Sukkot stems from the level of Yom Kippur. About the four hands, you have Yad Chazoka, Yad Pshuta, yeah, and then you have Yamincha Pshuta. And so that by Ne'ilah, there's an extra more than the Yad Chazoka and Yad etc. The Yamincha Pshuta, it's a little different from any other tshuva, fits the Ha'ora which I wrote on the Panorama question sheet. Okay, thank you, Rav Elu. And then we have one more. All right, that's what I have to share with you. And I'm going to wish you all Me'adim L'Simcha, and we should be Zeichet to celebrate the Simchas Beis HaSheva with Mashiach Tzidkenu in the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, Malkeinu B'Reishenu. All through.